All right, so this is my Freego X2, and a lot of people have been asking for some numbers, some close-up views, a couple other things about the bike. So this is going to be kind of a boring video. I'm not doing a ride in this video. It's not. I don't have any range numbers for you just yet because it's raining and I cannot get outside. So I'm going to give you a lot of the numbers and close-up shots. So parts that you can't see in pictures. I'm going to give you some experience with the numbers I see, things like the brake pads. I can't find brake pads anywhere for this thing, so that's a challenge that I've reached out to the factory waiting to see. But I'll show you the specs, and maybe somebody can comment the actual part number where I can get those. But we're going to start off with the frame. We'll go through suspension. I'll pull the controller out, the battery, where the battery hooks up, the chain, how the brakes actually sit on the rotor's front versus rear. Did I have any problems with rubbing and how to fix that? So we'll go over kind of all those things, and I'll show a close-up of the tires, the spokes, just a little bit of everything. It's going to be not too in-depth numbers, but we're going to do a lot of numbers, sizes, and close-up shots of things. So this is for the detail-oriented person that just wants some finer details about the bike. So I'm going to show a little mix of everything before I do all my numbers, so I don't have to mention any of this in my next video. But if you want to fast forward to a specific part, I'm going to try to separate it into chapters. Otherwise, I'm just going to kind of go through the bike, and we'll start out with the frame. And this is an all aluminum frame. Everything is pretty much aluminum. It's pretty simple. Everything is bolted on. I thought these were rivets. These actually aren't. When I get to the actual riding at the end, talking about riding, I'll talk about some of the spots that actually make noise, or the noises you might hear. I'll go over that. But just as far as the frame, solid aluminum, and I'll show you the insides once we get to the controller part. I did want to highlight this area right here because this is a great space. If I get a toolkit, this is where I'd like to put it. Now this is the back side of the battery, so this is where the battery goes in. So I have to make sure it's not rubbing right here whenever I put the battery in. I have to put like a spacer or something. But you have this huge space here and under the seat where I can store some tools. Under the controller here, you can see where the wires go back to the motor and come up into the controller and the battery. This is the bottom of the battery. The leads are on the bottom, so it actually connects right here underneath the battery, but you have quite a bit of space right here that's empty in the frame. I don't think I'm going to put anything there, but that's just part of the framework right there I wanted to show. The rear swing arm is a little beefier than my other bike. You can see where it's put together right there. And yeah, so one of the issues with this frame too is like this length and where the chain goes, I'm gonna have to put some kind of guard. You can see right here from the chain slapping my frame. They make a little silicone rubber guard. I'm probably gonna put it just right here, so when this chain does move and when I hit bumps, it goes here. That's pretty much it. That's the subframe, or the rear swing arm of the bike. So second is going to be the suspension, and so it has a fully adjustable suspension. I'll show you the front and then we'll go over the back. All right, so this is a closer look of the front suspension, and you can see it's fully adjustable, and this is about the setting where I'm at, but I'm still researching on how I want to ride. So it has a huge range of adjustment, and I'll show you bouncing on it after I do the rear shock. I'll put it all the way stiff and then I'll loosen it up. So we'll go back and forth so you can see how the bike actually moves, and it has a really good soft feel to it. So here's the rear suspension. This is a KKE shock, and it is part number BA27RC, and that's factory series suspension. And this thing also has a lot of adjustments. So on the top here, you can add or subtract, and it's got a good range of adjustment here, as well as your rebound screw, which is at the bottom. But I haven't adjusted that, I haven't messed with that at all. I just kind of mess with the compression. And I'll zoom out and get on the bike, and I'll show you how soft it can get and how firm the suspension can get. Okay, so I got the suspension all the way up. The front is super firm, the rear is super firm, and I'll just kind of bounce up and down so you can see it. So you can see it doesn't have enough, like a lot of movement. It can get real stiff. The front's really not moving much. The back has a little give in it. Now I'm gonna go ahead and loosen it up. So this is gonna be like my best compression, so you can see it's going all the way down in the front and in the back. Now for reference, I am 177 pounds, so you can see how it compresses with me. And as far as my height, I'm 5'6", and you can see my feet, my heels really don't touch the ground. So this is about where I sit, and my heels can't go down. So the range on this bike, I think, was 5'6" to 6 foot something. But you can see with my height, this is where I reach. Okay, on to the battery. This is your battery here. You can see it's exposed right here. It's covered all the way around, and it sits on a plate right at the bottom right here. There's a plate that's holding it, and that's where it actually plugs in. So I'll pull it out and show you. You lift this up, turn the key, and I'll show a close-up of that. And so when you turn the key, you can see this little bolt right here. That's what locks it into the little bracket. You want to make sure when you're taking it out or putting it back in that it sits all the way down, because if it doesn't sit, you can't turn it and it won't lock into place. While I'm showing the battery, this is the on and off switch, so you turn that on, and then you have to use the little chip on the screen to turn it on, but you just turn the battery on here. Here's your charge port. That's where you plug in your charger and the key to unlock it. So now it's unlocked, we'll go ahead and pull it out. So I'm just grab the handle, pull it straight up. Now before I put this down, I did want to show that the leads are on the bottom, so be very careful where you set this battery down. If you put it down on the dirt or something, then this is going to be all dirty, or it could even get something in one of these little holes, so be careful where you put this down. Here's where the battery sits. You can see they have a bracket here that it slides on to go all the way down and make sure everything lines up. Here's the pins down here. You can see there's 6 of them, but this is the little battery plate. I think this is a plastic plate, I'm pretty sure. The one that holds the controller is aluminum, and it looks close to the same, but I think that's definitely a plastic plate. So this is where your battery plugs in. So there's the tag on the side of the battery. Just wanted to show lithium ion, 1800 watt hours, 60 volt, 30 amp hour. And I just want to say, I haven't tested the capacity of this battery yet. I tested some smaller ones, and every battery I've tested, I just want to say this just in general, never really has that full capacity. Now it's not going to discharge to that, because there's a chip in here that most lithium batteries don't let you go to empty. They won't let you go all the way to empty. It'll always do like a 5–10%. I'm not 100% on what that is, but it'll always go to a certain level before it says it's empty. But that battery management system doesn't let it get to that full empty. But still, when I've tested, it's never quite that full capacity. I just want to say that as like a disclaimer or whatever. Here's that little label on the top, so you can see everything about the lithium battery. That's the thing that's facing you. When you're sitting, I don't know, I think I'm going to leave this on here. And I did want to talk about the handle. So the handle is actually plastic. So this is a plastic handle. So be careful when you're pulling it out of there, because it just has these 2 screw points that hold it together. I want to show when you reinstall it what I was talking about, not going down all the way. So if you just set it in there, this won't lock. It's not in place. Nothing's happening. And that's because it's not down all the way. If you be very gentle and kind of wiggle it, you saw it drop? That drop is into place. And now I can turn the key. So now it locks, the battery's locked in place, it won't come out. Just be very gentle on that, because it's trying to get those pins in the bottom. So you just want to push it like that, and our battery's reinstalled. So after the battery, I'm kind of going to talk about controls. We'll start out with everything in here, then I'll move to the handlebars. I'm going to take this out, and I'll show you the back part of that and everything, and we'll remove this cover. But first, the battery cables go down through here, they come up inside in behind the controller, and they come up in here. Everything is connected in here, and then goes up to the handlebars and everything out through there. But the wiring path is pretty much handlebars down through here, through the bottom, under the swing arm, and then to the motor or to the brake. So it just kind of follows right here. As far as wiring, that's one of my cons, is the fact that none of this is open right here. So I couldn't put this on a stand, because that the motor wire passes right here. So I know that you have a chain on here and the sprockets right here, but if I could just put it on a stand on the edge, it'd be great. But I don't want to rub this wire or mess this up. So that's a con for me, that I can't put it on a stand. Those of you that like the guts and all the internal stuff, I'm not going to go over all the numbers, but if you remove this plate here, which is on both sides, you can remove either plate. It looks like this, just goes right there. You can get to the wiring harness. And so if you look right here, this is where all your wires are plugged in. They all come in from the handlebars and from the controller up. And then I wanted to show the controller. I actually pulled the controller out, which you have to undo the horn, and then you can get to your controller. And this is where all the wires come in to the motor and everything. Let me show the other side. I'll show the little tag. Okay, here's a better view of it, so you can see what kind of controller it is and kind of all the wiring. It sits right here behind the front tire and goes into this this plate right here, and there's a couple more connections you can see right up in there. All right, now we're gonna go over the controls up here and just all the buttons and everything. Now I've readjusted things to how I like it because the handlebars first were too far forward or something. And that's something that I might change in the future, is taller handlebars. But like, if I could get 2 inches taller, it'd be great. Because being someone that's 5'6" and having to, still feeling like I'm really leaning forward, anybody taller than me, like, I feel like it's really gonna make you like lean forward. So I just kind of did adjustments, but we'll start on this side. And so I wanted to talk about the handlebar grips. The grips, like, they're soft, but they don't have like super amount of grip because they're solid like this. So I might be changing these in the future. I did add a side mirror, and so a rear view mirror. That way I could see traffic behind me, because with a full face helmet, it's hard to look back. Your rear brake, and then right here you have your horn and your light. I'll honk the horn in a second and show the light. The light is strong. It's not super strong, but it's definitely a great light. Then the bottom horn, the horn is super loud. I mean, you saw it when I showed the controls there. Then you have your display, your little heads-up display. Light is behind it. Now, I didn't take the little plastic off because I like that as a screen protector, and it's still pretty smooth. But if it bubbles up and stuff, I'll just, you know, pull that off. Then right here is your Shimano shifter, 7 gears. You know, you push this and push this to shift up and down. It's not something I'm going to be using unless some cops give me a hard time. And then here is your park. And so when you turn it on, I'll show you when I turn it on in a second, it goes automatically into park. And then you hit the park button, it goes into eco and sport. So you want to think every time you stop, it basically goes into park mode. Not every time. It has a timer. I haven't figured that time out yet. But when you press this, it comes out of park, and then whatever one you're switched into, it'll go into that one. The throttle is a full twist throttle, so you can see it's a full handle instead of the short one. And then here is your front brake. Now the turn on process. So first we're going to flip this up, turn the battery on, and you'll notice that this will turn on up here, the screen, and it's asking for that chip. So you just put it right in the middle. If it doesn't work, just move it around. Okay, so from what I found and read, there is no advanced settings. I'm sure there's a way to get in here, but the company, I emailed them, they said they don't know what I'm talking about, advanced settings, but it's got to be a way to program this. So, you know, that's, I don't know. So let's hit the park button, and that sends you into E. S goes into eco, and then as you turn it, pick the rear end up a little bit and give it a little juice. So you can see it does the voltage at the bottom, and it does the speed at the top. So you have your speed, voltage, and then it automatically switches back to trip when you stop. So if you want to see your mileage, you don't have to hit a button. It goes voltage while you're turning the throttle, and then back to mileage once you stopped. So it's super simple. Look, I know a lot of this is boring to a lot of people, but this is a video I wish I could have seen before I bought it. It's just more information that I'd like to have. And so I'm hoping that this is helping somebody that needs the same information. Let's hear the horn. Now, it's loud. Yeah, it's pretty loud. So it sounds like a car horn right there. Super loud. Front light. Now, I have lights on in here, and you can see it's pretty bright. I definitely have seen worse lights, like on my V-Electric, but I've seen some better headlights, but it's definitely pretty strong, and it'll light up everything while you're riding. I will be adding some lights here and probably in here in the battery. So I want like this to glow at night, and the rear shock, I think that looks really cool. So I'm probably gonna put a couple things in there. But as far as controls, I think that's everything besides going into how fast you go in eco and sport. And I will say, when you put it in sport, so this thing is rated for 60 miles an hour. Now, I haven't tried to get to 60. I'll do that once it stops raining. But when you put it in sport, if I pick up the rear tire and I crank it, it'll go straight to 60, no doubt. Like, that's free spin. If I pick it up, no traction, it'll spin and go to 60. And on eco, it'll spin and I think go to 38 or so. Now, when I was riding, I did do eco full speed, and it was stopping around 34 miles an hour, I believe. So I do have that number. And another number I can give y'all real quick is I went 23 miles, still had a good bit of boost. I didn't do top speed in sport, but it was still taking off at red lights, and I was missing 2 bars. So I had 2 bars missing. I was 23 miles in, and I went back and forth between eco and sport, and I was going back and forth between throttle and less throttle, but I didn't record any of those stats, so I don't have those exact numbers. It's just at the end of the trip, that's what I saw and what I remember. So next time I will record all of that, because I know that's what everybody's dying to hear, is like those stats and numbers. Next, I'm gonna move into the brakes, and I mean, you can kind of see the reason I can't move my bike and have a better shot like normal is because I'm actually painting some stuff in here. So my shop is full of boards and everything, so I can't walk around. But I wanted to show the actual brake. So here's your rear brake, and your rear brake is on the left, whereas my other e-bike, the Move Cam and the V-Electric, the rear brake is actually on the right, so that's super confusing. But they made it easy. It's more like it would be more like a dirt bike. So instead of clutch, here's your rear brake. Easier for wheelies. I cannot wheelie. It's something I'm working on. That'll be one of my progression videos. And then here's your front brake on this side. I haven't done any adjustments to any of the brakes. I just want to say that, but there is some adjustments I'm going to cover in a second. Starting with the rear brake, you can see it has definitely a lot of room. So I haven't adjusted it, and I'd like it to come in a little bit more, so I might make that adjustment today. But here's your little chamber right here where you can see the hydraulic fluid, and that's your reservoir, and then it goes down into the rear caliper. So while I'm showing the rear caliper, I do want to make a note that you can see on the disc the little bit of brake wear where the brake is rubbing, and it is barely anything. And so I can tell you the front brake has a lot of stopping power from the factory, but this rear brake, you can see the pads, they're not grabbing right. So I might have to check the adjustment, but what I really think I'm gonna do, because I can show you from the top, that rotor is about halfway through the pads, and I'm gonna pull these out, and I'm gonna give you measurements with my caliper of the hole spacing and the size of the pads. So if anybody knows where I can get them, you know, we'll put them in the comments, please. But you can see the disc is down there, and when I take the pads out, you see where it's rubbing. So it can definitely drop a little bit. So on this side, they have a spacer here, and then they have like that bracket. I don't want to shave this bracket down because that's what the screws screw into, but I might remove these 2 washers right here, this spacer. That way I can get that brake down, that space. That space right there looks like that's the perfect amount to get the brake down. So I might pull that out, but this is how it comes factory. I just wanted to show that. It does stop really good, but not as good as the front brake. When you pull the front brake, you can feel it kind of jerky a little bit. So here's the front brake, and you can see the rotor has rubbed all the way right here. So the pad is rubbing on a bigger chunk. I mean, it's pretty much the size of my pinky versus half of that on the rear. And so you can see it's got a lot more grab on this brake, makes it to where it has a good grip. Now, a lot of people were telling me some things about this disc rubbing, the front brake rubbing or the back brake. Now, what I did when I put this one on, I didn't adjust the back. It was perfect. But for the front, if you see there's a slot right here, there's actually a slot goes this way, so you can do side-to-side adjustment. And it could be rubbing because you put it too far that way, and so it could be messing it up. I just wanted to say the way I did it, whether it's right or wrong, is I squeeze the front brake with my right hand, and then my left hand, I tighten this up. So by squeezing this brake pad, it's holding it right in the middle, and then you tighten it up. Now, there might be a tool for this, I don't know, but that's the way I did it. I squeeze the front brake, and then tighten this up. It put it right in the middle, and I've never heard this rotor rub at all. But I do want to talk about this a sound that comes from the rear brake rotor. So I didn't cover this a second ago, but I wanted to say that this rotor, it is thick, okay? But if you hear me tapping it, you can hear that ringing noise. And like when I've taken off a few times, the vibration of the motor like spinning or whatever, you can hear a noise, and it's coming from this. So I just want to say that's a noise. If you hear it in my videos, or if you haven't like a vibration sound from back here, it's most likely this. And so, I mean, and I can't recreate the noise with my hands, but you can hear just tapping it. So you can, when this is spinning, like there's a vibration right here, and the vibration will make this make a noise. Like there's no way around it. I guess with a thicker brake disc, or I'm not sure. But I have noticed there's a little bit of a noise, and it's coming from this disc, you know, that vibration when that motor is really torquing. So as far as the brake pads, I'm going to go ahead and remove them. And this is basically a video on how to change your brake pads. You're going to need a number 3 Allen key, or a little, you know, hex key. And just remove these 2 screws and it pops right out. So there's the brake assembly. It's super simple, and when you get the new one, you just slide it right back in. But the problem is I haven't been able to find this set anywhere. So I'll give the measurements with some calipers, and maybe somebody can find it and tag them in the comments or give me the model number. So overall it's 38 millimeters wide, 31 millimeters tall, and the holes, the spacing on the holes from center to center, that's edge to edge, center to center is 20, so 20.27. The thickness is 4.9 millimeters. So that's all the measurements of this brake pad. As far as the wear on the pads, and you can see it's only catching the top, it's pushing up here. So this little hydraulic is pushing at the top, and it's really squeezing more right here. It's not squeezing all the way down. And I feel like if it is seated down a little more, it's going to have a better grip, and I'll use that entire brake pad. So that's an adjustment I'll probably make later. I'll go ahead and put the brake pads back in. All right, so that was super simple. Showed you the brake pads, how they come in and out, and if you can find those size, please tag the item number in the comments. I want to go over tires, and a big thing, if yours aren't inflated all the way, or if it looks like it's sitting on the rim bad, deflate your tire, or if it's deflated, and you want to kind of pinch it all the way around, get this rubber to sit right. That way you don't have any issues or balance, like it's going to off balance your tire. So make sure it's seated on the rim right. Inflate it a little bit, make sure it's seated on the rim right, inflate a little bit more, and repeat that process until your tire sits in that rim the right way. As far as the size and brand, it's called a Choyang, I think is how you pronounce it. I'm not 100%, but it's right here. You can see it. And the model number is MX. It's right there, MX887. I think that's IT. And let's see right here. Here's the actual size. This is a 70 by 100 by 19. Let's see, MC. So you can see it's got a little bit of space if you were to put kind of a wider tire. I'm most likely going to do more of a street tire, because this tire is when you get sideways a little bit like this, I almost wiped out. When you give it a little bit of power, I almost wiped out in the street the other day, and it was dry. So that's something I might change. This is a mountain bike tire, is what it says on their site. So that's something that I might change. And the pounds that it's supposed to be inflated, because it does have a tube in here, you can see the valve stem, is located right here. It's 33 pounds. So your max pressure is going to be 33 psi. And I'll show you the back tire. Okay, here's the back tire. Now the front tire, the spokes are all tight. On the back one, I did find some, I don't know where they are, but I did find a couple that felt a little loose, and that's an easy fix. You can see the motor right here. I wanted to show this. I didn't show the motor, but you can see 60 volt, 3,000 watts. So there's your motor number. The back tire, again, it's Choyang. It is the same tire, the MX887 IT, 33 pound max pressure, 70 by 100 by 19 MC. And as far as your spacing for the back tire, you could definitely put a wider tire. I don't know, you maybe do a 110. It's something that I'd have to check out, but I feel like I could fit a little bit wider tire. They definitely have space on both sides. It will be close to the chain if you're using the chain. So, you know, just be aware of that. But I don't know. I might, if I end up changing these to Supermotos, it's probably gonna be just the same front and back, just to make it simple. So I want to go over a quick cons list of the things that I don't like about this bike. They're going to be real short, and I haven't ridden enough to really give you a whole lot of stuff, but I'm going to tell you what I can. So for my first thing on cons is the seat. As far as the seat goes, the angle is what I have a problem with. And so you have this gap here, and I think that's for the battery. But if the seat was just slightly longer, I mean a couple inches to be right here, that would be, I think, better. And the thickness is here. So it wants you to sit here. This is the thickest part. And you can see it's definitely soft. But because of the angle, it makes me want to sit right here. And for taller people, you're going to want to sit even further back because of where the pedals are located. They're up and back a little bit. So you're going to want to sit about right here. And so I think if the seat was slightly longer and that cushion point was more here to here, you know, it was thick all the way to here, which they have the space under here. Like, you can make it thicker. That would be a better ride. And that's a big deal when you're riding this for a while, or even on a lot of bumps, like having that nice cushioned seat. The next con, which I already covered, was the brakes. The way that they sit, and I mean, you can see the groove again. The way they sit, it doesn't catch enough caliper in the back, or not caliper, it doesn't catch enough of the disc in the back. The front is great. It catches enough brake, but not the back, not for me. So I'm gonna make that adjustment. And if it doesn't work, I'm gonna have to put this bracket on my grinder and just grind that down and retap it to make sure that it sits lower and it's able to catch, you know, more of that disc to have better braking power. I know you've seen this. I didn't cover this. I'm a dad, so this is for a bike buggy. I just drilled it out a little bit bigger and put the nut back on, and you can see it covers. I put another washer in to make sure it stays. But this is a adapter for a bike buggy to pull my kids behind me. So the next con for me is the handlebar height. The handlebar height, I believe, needs to be a little bit taller. This is just too short, whether it's the stem or the handlebars. It needs to be a couple inches taller. That would just be a little bit better to have that height difference. Now, the final thing for me is where the battery sits. So I think because of the type of bike it is and everything, I feel like you could have a 40 amp hour battery. I feel like that would be the better option, to have that 40 amp hour, because it is the 60 volt, and I feel like 40 amp hours would be perfect. And also, like, you have room for height here. You're sitting way back here. You have all this space where there's nothing. So I would like to see more protection for turning it on, because you just flip this up. So if this could be just a designated handle, or even like another cover, and then tap in, which I might even do, build a plastic thing that taps in here, that kind of folds over the battery. So it would have a hinge here, or maybe even hinge here, since this is solid, and have it here where you have a key. So your key unlocks the battery, and it unlocks this cover to take it out. And, you know, with that much height, you could have a built-in toolbox. So you flip it up and your toolbox is right there. I just feel like that's just an engineering thing that could be a better spot. So to be able to have that right there, that would be a great plus for me, maybe not for other people. But that's it. Now, this whole list of cons that I'm mentioning is some nitpicky things that I've never ridden. I've ridden a Talaria once, but I haven't ridden some of the bigger bikes. And, you know, the comparison, I don't have the experience. I'm just telling you what I see in riding versus big bikes. I have a YZ250F, and riding my MoveCam V30. That's my experience in e-bikes and riding bikes. And I just think for my comfort, these are the things that I would look at or deal with that maybe it might not be as important to you, but it's just some stuff that I can see, you know, before putting a lot of hours on the bike. That's going to be it for my overview. I've covered pretty much every system, showed a lot more stuff than I've seen anybody showing their videos about it. I do want to say I don't ride with the front fender. Now, there were batches that came out that didn't get a front fender. I got the front fender and the rear fender, which doesn't really cover much. And I'm not riding anywhere that's wet, so I don't put this on there. And even if I would, I don't want this sticking out. I want it to look more like a mountain bike. I want to draw less attention to myself, and you know, just want to stay out of the eyes of people that'll pull me over or try to impound my bike. And then this bracket, I'm not sure what this bracket's for. I still haven't figured it out. If somebody wants to comment, I'm 80% sure it goes under where the light is, like right there, because the holes, that's the only place these holes line up. And I think it's just a black light bracket, and the other bracket you use on the bottom for like a secondary light, which I'm probably going to do, or even mount one of my colored lights shining on the controller. So if y'all could comment, tell me what that part is, that'd be great. But I think that's it. I really like the ride of it. Again, I believe this bike is an in-between bike. It's not a Suron, it's not a Talaria. It won't be because it's 60 volts, and it 3,000 watt hub motor, 6,000 watt peak. So this is the in-between bike. And so my Move Cam V30 was the first bike, the beginner bike. That's the cheap bike. This is the bikes that everybody are getting, like, all of those. This is the in-between model. So this is the one in between. I feel like this is affordable for a lot of people for the speed you get. I think at 30 amp hours, it's going to be a little short on the time you get. I don't know how they figured out the calculations. They said the range is somewhere between 34, 35 to 60 something miles, but I don't think it's going to reach that. I think we'll probably be, if I'm being conservative, in the 40-mile range before it's dead. But we'll see. That's just my estimate. We'll see if I can beat that, or if my numbers are right. Suspension's amazing, great ride. But yeah, that's pretty much my overview of all the numbers and stuff before we go on a big ride and I get all the real details.